there's really no answer for a healthy Embiid. The issue is that he's not healthy. You know, that left knee soreness obviously forced him to miss game 3. Some back issues as well, at least early in the season. We have those concerns to think about with the Philadelphia 76ers. The last 2 or 3 games of this first round series, they went game to game wondering whether or not Embiid was going to play, and he missed one of those games. If Joel Embiid is healthy, there's no answer for him from the Toronto Raptors. Gasol can't guard him. Siakam can't guard him. Kawhi can't guard him. I don't give a damn who you put on him. There is no way to guard Joel Embiid. A matter of fact, the biggest person, the best defender against Joel Embiid is on his own team. It's Coach Brett Brown, who may elect not to give him the ball enough in the post. That might be the biggest problem because there's no stopping Embiid when he's healthy. So my argument would be it would be tougher to stop Embiid if he were healthy. But because his health is questionable, and that's not the case with Kawhi Leonard, I understand those who would say it's Kawhi.
Look at this list. Let me just go over some finals MVPs in recent years. Tell me when you don't hear a two-way wing, okay? So a real guy who can not only score a wing, not a point guard, and then on the other end really defend. KD, LeBron. This is finals MVP list. Iguodala, Kawhi, LeBron, Nowitzki. That's the first one. Kobe. Someone whose name I wrote down and cannot see. Parker, Wade. Like Parker and Nowitzki are the only two. Everybody else, everybody else on the list is a two-way wing. And I'm going to get you that other name in a second. Go ahead, Stephen A. Pierce, Paul Pierce.
First of all,
Pierce,
that
two-way
other
wing.
name, okay, I heard you loud and clear. It means nothing to me. Here's why. A couple of things. When Olajuwon was dominated, folks, in the 90s, we didn't ignore that, okay? Number 2, you have repeatedly raved about Embiid because you said he's the exception to the rule. You gave me the rule. I appreciate that. But you're also the person that said that Joel Embiid was the exception. So the fact of the matter is, Max Kellerman, you're the one that's going to have to make up your mind, not me, because I'm acknowledging what you said 4 months now, which is that Joel Embiid is the exception. We're not denigrating Kawhi Leonard in any way. We're not ignoring the culture of basketball that exists before us right now. We're not devoid of recognizing the fact that the Kawhi Leonards of the world fall in line with the Kobes, the Paul Pierce, the Michael Jordan, and others because they've got the ball in their hands. They're on the perimeter. They can do some things. What I am acknowledging is that for the purposes of these playoffs, based on the Sixers roster, the Harrises, the Butlers, the Ben Simmons, even though Kawhi Leonard has had his way with Ben Simmons to some degree, the bottom line is I'm looking at the Toronto Raptors roster. I'm looking at the coach of basketball. I'm looking at what we've seen from Embiid, and I'm proclaiming that if Embiid were 100%, we would be sitting here right now, knowing the greatness of Kawhi Leonard, anticipating that he'd still be great, but we'd be saying, damn, how they going to deal with Embiid?
Wait, Max, I think Stephen A. has answered your question about would you rather have a wing over a big. I hear you, Stephen A. You're saying Embiid's the exception to the rule. He's the Shaq. He's the Olajuwon in this occasion. And so, Max, I think you have to now answer Stephen A.'s charge, which is who do the Raptors put on Embiid? How do they stop him?
Gasol, Siakam, they have Ibaka. They have big, long guys, and it's not just one guy. It's like with Shaq or with Patrick Ewing even back in the day, the Bulls would get Wennington and all these guys. That's 6 fouls on Ewing. That's 6 fouls on Ewing, right? And there are things you can do now. But I want to answer the Olajuwon thing. Olajuwon won back-to-back MVPs. It's only because MJ was out of the league. MJ won 3, then he retired. Olajuwon got 2, and then MJ came back and won 3 more. It would have been 8 straight for MJ, 0 for Olajuwon had Jordan stayed in the league. I think we both agree about that. But I think you and I agree about that.
We do agree. We do agree, but we also appreciated how Olajuwon was a freak of nature because unlike Ewing, the David Robinsons and others, the arsenal that Olajuwon had at his disposal, we marveled at it.
Right. So let's go on. The other 2 exceptions to this, because otherwise it's always a two-way wing. The other exceptions are Shaq and Duncan. And they both won their MVPs in the finals before the Steph Curry revolution. Now that the 3 is as prevalent as it is, and the floor is spaced as it is, because as we saw last night, Lillard's hitting from 40 feet, right? It's much more difficult for a guy, even like Embiid, who can defend in space and shoot the 3 a little. Much more difficult for a big.
Let me address that point that you just made and tell you why that is unfair. Although Steph Curry was younger, there was a reason, one could argue, why they hadn't won a championship. Because you remember the Spurs went to back-to-back finals, losing to Miami one year, beating them the next. What I'm saying to you is you're saying that Duncan did it before the Steph Curry era. I'm saying to you, maybe, just maybe, San Antonio stalled the Steph Curry era. Even after Golden State won a championship, what was one of the storylines? You remember when Jaja Pachulia undercut Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard ended up not really being available for the rest of the series against Golden State.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Who undercut who? They had a dominant two-way wing on that team. Golden State didn't. When they got KD, it was over.
Max, don't interrupt me from making the point before you get to yours. I'm making the point that we're discussing. He undercut Kawhi Leonard. I'm only using that as an analogy to tell you that that Steph Curry era that you're talking about almost got interrupted. So the point that I'm trying to make to you is I'm only using that to address your point about Tim Duncan one year, potentially Kawhi Leonard another. You're talking about the Steph Curry era. I'm saying it could have been interrupted. So the point is you've got somebody like Joel Embiid who has the potential to interrupt the Kawhi Leonard because of Joel Embiid's greatness if he were healthy.
I'm not denying it's a tough call. Embiid is that special. We agree. But the reason I said stop right there is because you had to pinpoint even the Spurs forestalling the Steph Curry era. That's because one team, the Spurs, had a dominant two-way wing who wound up winning an MVP in the finals, and the other team, the Warriors, didn't until they got KD, a dominant two-way wing, who won 2 MVPs in the finals and made them invincible.
All right, we got to leave this
But
here.
but nobody's arguing that that's usually the case.